Benavides, and I'm originally from the Central Valley. I grew up in Easton, which is a small town outside of Fresno, and upon my mom's second marriage, I moved to Wheatley, California. So I graduated high school there. And my background experience working with lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and questioning communities really originated, I think, when I was, before I was even a youth. I was 10 years old, and my eldest brother, who is my only true man in my life, that's what I call him, and my inspiration, he came out to me when I was 10, and it was a really interesting experience because I didn't really even know what gay meant, and I had heard it so much in my life as far as folks using this term to really degrade and dehumanize people, and I didn't know what a kind of positive way of defining that term meant, right? But I also knew that that's what my brother was. And so I knew that there was something positive about this idea or this concept or just the word being gay. And so he taught me from really early on that you love people for whoever they are, whatever they have, no matter their race, their color, who they love, how much money they have, you know, that you really appreciate everything that a person has to offer. And so that would kind of stuck with me. And when I realized when he was kind of deciding that he wanted to come out to me, I made it very clear to him that it's like, you know, you don't have to tell me this because I already know, like, I already love you, it's okay. And then I realized that it was a bigger step in his process of coming out, that he really needed to say it out loud. And it was a very affirming moment for him. And so he came out to me, and since then things just kind of really started clicking on like why he had brought me up. Like, he was like a second father, right? He would always told me to love people for who they were, and it just made more and more sense to me why he always told me these things. So I used that as a fuel throughout middle school and high school to really start becoming a lot more active in social justice work in general. My first niche was a lot more in the realms of feminism and racial justice, and really kind of making these connections between how women of color have been dehumanized for many, many years. And to me, that was my connection of being able to have a conversation with my brother about how he felt being a Mexican-American man in a very traditional family and coming out. And those are the kind of conversations we had really, really early on, and we continued to have them. And as I went into UC Berkeley for my undergraduate career, I really wanted to take those kind of conversations about women of color and race and gender and sexuality to the forefront there. And so I decided to apply kind of the experiences that I had with new kind of paraprofessional job opportunities. And so I started working very quickly in my sophomore year with the Gender Equity Resource Center at UC Berkeley. And I made it very, very apparent that I wanted to work specifically on LGBTQ organizing because I had not been able to do that here in the Valley, and I knew that there was kind of a lack of resources and support in high school to do that. And so I felt like it was just something that I really wanted to gain more knowledge around and some organizing skills around. And so I worked specifically as a program coordinator on events like National Coming Out Day, Memorial for Transgender Day of Remembrance, facilitating kind of coalition building events that happened with the LGBTQ community, as well as students of color on campus. And then I continued doing this work, and that really grounded my organizing skills in college to continue to do work with other departments who are looking at cross-cultural work. And that doesn't just mean like racial justice work or economic justice work, but really kind of building these coalitions between sexuality, gender, and class, and recognizing that these kind of like oppressions overlap, and that it's really important to recognize those and kind of call them out, and also just to be very sensitive of all these different levels of oppression that exists. You know, that somebody who is a man of color who's coming out to their family is a very different experience than a wealthy person who's white, comes from a very accepting background, right? And so I became very, very kind of immersed in this idea of making these connections. And ever since then, I've just really, really fell in love with everything that I'm doing. And when given the opportunity to join GSA Network, the beginning of this past summer, so summer 2011, I was really excited to take the skills I learned at UC Berkeley and in the Bay Area on LGBT organizing and bring them here so that I could just figure out ways to really empower youth from the same area that I'm from. to come to the Central Valley and say like, hey, I gained all these skills, like how can you best use me so that I can make sure that our youth feel more welcoming in this community.